Okay, so that song ending was a good time. It hit right at 6, so it wasn't planned, but let's try and get this started. Okay, and I'm trying a different way of recording tonight. You'll notice there's like my name on the bottom. This is the software I use to record the podcast, and I will be using this when I'm in Arkansas. So I thought I'd use tonight as a test run. I was going to do it last week and some technical difficulties, but I believe I have that all sorted out. Welcome, Anne. Welcome, Lydia. Glad to see you here. And I also got some new toys. So I've got a new Stream Deck with all the buttons and bells and whistles. So hopefully this all goes smooth. So far, so good. And it's going to throw me off because I've got my prompter here that I'm looking in, but then the recording software here on the screen. So hopefully I'll be able to keep my eyes facing in the right direction. But eventually I'll be swatching tonight. So I'll be looking down anyway. So it'll be a non-issue. But welcome. Glad to see you here. I'll start off here in a moment by talking about a pin show update for the two that are coming up this month. And then I also was able to procure a room for a show later on this year that still have to work on the logistics of getting there. But I'm excited for that one if it comes to be. So we'll see how that goes. And I got a couple of new things. I got some new paper that was gifted to me for my birthday by Olive Octopus. That was made by Well Appointed Desk. That is cool. I actually had another tablet of it and I didn't realize it was made by Well Appointed Desk. So I'm looking forward to using that and showing it. I won another typewriter in an auction last night, but it won't be here for an unknown amount of time. But I really want it because it's very like teal and really cool looking, and I'm very excited for it. And it's another Smith Corona that I've really enjoyed using. The one I already have, but this is a slightly different model, a little bit newer, and has some more bells and whistles. And it also has a unique case, so that'll be interesting once it comes here. Just to give the cliff notes, Smith Corona had what was called the holiday case. So it was kind of like a hard side suitcase that was your typewriter case. But if you're going on a trip and you're not taking your typewriter, you can take out the typewriter mount and use it as a suitcase. So this comes with it. The typewriter, I got it through Shop Goodwill auction, was not only working where they were typing, it had a ribbon that at least had some life left in it. It still has the key to the case. So it's like a perfect scenario. So I'll be interested to get that. But let's start by looking at a couple of new things. And I have a pinned message just in case you have not seen it yet. The episode with the Pen Addict did release this morning. That was a, yes, it was very appealing, and the thing looks gorgeous. If it's half as good as the pictures look, I'm going to be very excited with it. Lydia has already seen a sneak peek, being a typewriter junkie as well. It's one of those things when I won the auction last night, I was like, holy crap, I won it. I must tell people and then go to sleep because it was past my bedtime. But okay, so let me zoom this in a little. This I found at Gentleman Stationer, and I wasn't really anticipating it. And side note, I don't know if she's here yet. This was one of the first transactions that Olive Octopus, who is now helping out at Gentleman Stationer, rang up for me. But this was a plastic eraser, and it's got grid markers. So if you're erasing on a grid, you can erase within the lines. So it's got a 3mm, a 6mm, a 5mm. I just opened this up and look forward to using it. I don't do a lot of stuff in grid lines, but the idea was very appealing to me. And it was a Shop Goodwill does auctions on a lot of typewriters. I guess they auction them through there instead of having them in the store. I guess they realize they can sell them a little bit better, possibly. And that's where I've gotten 3 other typewriters from. One that's great, 2 that are now disassembled with the thought of eventually making the 2 become 1 working typewriter, but we'll have to see how that goes. But yeah, good to see you, Olive Octopus. And so this was just intriguing to be able to erase within certain grid lines, and I thought this would be fun just to play around with in terms of an eraser. And also, I have now one quick button. If I'm showing paper, I can turn off, make it easier to see. So I've really upped the tech side of this, and the tech nerd in me is very happy. I also found another sticker that was very appropriate for all the letter writing and whatnot. The snail mail crossing with all the reflectivity. That's the nice thing with going to Joe's. There's little things all around that I've been there how many times, and I find something new each time. So I don't know if this will go in the journal or if this will go on something, but looks really cool in the camera with the reflective like that. And then this was a birthday gift in the paper I was talking about from Olive Octopus. Now this was made by Well Appointed Desk at some point in the past, and I know that because it has the writing sheets underneath, and I really like these writing sheets. I'd never seen the ones that Anna makes where it's got a 5mm grid, 7mm lined, 5mm dot grid, or 8mm lined. So you have options. It comes with 2 cards to throw underneath, but the paper in here is vintage typewriter stock. So talk about apropos, and the picture on the front is actually an Olivetti, which I own. The teal typewriter, if you saw on a thing in the past that my mom had and I have now been gifted, that's an Olivetti. So neat little thing like that, but I plan on using this, and I'll talk a little bit more later in the stream about my roundtable plans and show some of the stuff, but I plan on having some examples in my paper testing and use this for the roundtable that I'll be doing in Arkansas. So it's very timely, and I look forward to putting some of this typewriter stock in the typewriters. I haven't gotten around to it yet this week, trying to get other pin show prep done, which, by the way, a shout out to Stationery Stack again. This has been a lifesaver. This little card stand, and this is the Honcho, I believe. I have been using this nonstop. I have a work list. This is my stuff to do before the Arkansas Pin Show. And I've just been during work, I'll have the work list there. And then after work, switch it to the other stuff I need to get done. That's been really helpful. Having that where I can just have it out of the corner of my eye, glance over. So big fan of that. Thanks a lot again, Addie. Very wonderful. And you don't realize you need it until you have it. And now I'm like, man, why did I not have this sooner? But yeah, looking forward to using the paper. And then I'm trying to think, I feel like there's something else that I was looking at. I do have a future guest lined up that will be my first not true stationery related. There's the Typewriter Revolution book, and I contacted the author, and I was like, hey, would you like to do an episode? I'm starting to add a little bit of typewriter content into my YouTube channel. And he's like, sure. So it looks like that'll be after the pin shows, because he has some obligations and doing some traveling, and I'll be traveling the next couple of weeks, and there's a chance there won't be a podcast episode next week. I kind of got behind in scheduling just as I was prepping for the show, so it might be 2 weeks till there's the next one, or I might be able to squeeze in some sort of live episode while at the pin show. And if nothing else, I'll have the live stream that I'm recording with the vendors that I'll be talking to at the pin show, so I might just post that to the podcast feed. That might be a good happy medium, because that'll be essentially the day after when that episode would have released. So we'll see how that goes, just as a side note. But yeah, let's and I'll show you the book I'm talking about here. I think I showed this in the last stream, but Typewriter Revolution, and a shout out too for the awesome bookmark from I Paint Burbs. If you're not familiar with her on Twitch, this was also a gift, and very fitting. There's also another Olivetti that happens to be on the cover of that paper, so it's all coming together. But yeah, I've been starting to read this, and then the author also has a nonfiction book that is typewriter themed in some way that is actually on its way to me. I was like, why not? I've been in a lull where I hadn't been reading as much, so now this is forcing the issue, which is a good thing for me. I go in ebbs and flows with reading actual books, so this is a good sign. But other than that, I think we're mainly going to get into the swatching. So let me see if I got my cameras correct here. Those are all the ones that I plan on re-swatching tonight. So as you can see, it's a bunch of diamine, bunch of Mont Blanc, a couple of Lamy, a Sailor, and those are the cards that I happened to pick out of the stack from when typing them from a couple streams ago. And I have them all sitting on top of the card, so it'll be easy to grab one, swatch it, and then move on. And then I have my handy dandy silicone desk mat here that I learned about through my talking and with Olive Octopus ink. So if I do make a mess, it'll be a contained mess. So yeah, hopefully we don't have any messes, but let's go on and get started with that. So I'm just going to reach over and grab inks, and we'll go through and swatch them on the card. And if you're not familiar with what I'm doing, I'll show the cards. Looks like we're starting with Diamine Earl Grey, and I think I'll leave it at this zoom level here. And I'll go ahead and turn that down so it shows up. But I've been going through and typing all of the ink names. So this is I did it for the the Colorverse Inkvent calendar, and I really loved it. So that's going to become my new standard. Hey, David, good to see you. So I'm just going to be re-swatching, and I have just enough glass stir rods for swatching that I can do all the inks I have set out, and I'll only have to clean the two of these to get the last two, because I thought I had more of these, but apparently I don't. So, and I do not do very intricate swatching of any sort. I'm more of a practical swatcher. So I'll just kind of show the ink. This is the Diamine Earl Grey. And then eventually I will work my way through, and then even in pulling out inks off the shelf as I was going through the cards, I realized apparently my fountain pen companion is really out of date, because I had plenty of other Diamine bottles on the shelf and Mont Blanc that I didn't have cards for. So that's going to be a future endeavor of updating the fountain pen companion ink list and figuring out what I have that I don't have, so I can get everything in sync. So we're just going to mix that in here, and let me know how the stream looks, because like I said, I am using the other platform. So if things look wonky or blurry or anything like that, let me know, because that'd be good to find out now before I'm using this similar setup at the pin show for the 2.5 hour long stream, where I'll be talking to some of the vendors on Friday as kind of a preview for Saturday of the show. And as I'm swatching, speaking of shows, I was able to, it was already sold out, but I happened to just go check. I've procured a room for the DC Pen Show. I'm still working on logistics of getting to DC for said show, but I would like to go help out in the Vanessa Pen Lounge. So when I'm in Arkansas, I plan on talking to Lisa and seeing if that would be a thing. I know that they can always use more help in there, and I know myself that would be a good way to experience the show, but also not go crazy and buy all the things. So what I'm going to be doing, Anne, for the cameras is I'm going to have one pointing at myself, one pointing at the other chair where there will be a guest sitting, a wide angle shot, and then an audience shot, and then I'll have my little stream deck where I can switch between those, kind of live mixing it as I go, and we'll see how that ends up. Now, right now, I can tell because I have the white balance off, it does look a little grainy on my screen, but supposedly the live stream looks better than what I see on here. It's something they talk about on this Riverside platform, so we'll see how that ends up. But I'm going to have my mixing board, my microphones, the whole live thing, and yeah, and that's just because I have, when I turn the white balance on, it'll be less grainy, but then you don't see the name on the card. But maybe I'll just talk about. I am, and I think Craig is one of the people I will be talking to, David. He is on the list. I actually bought my Diamine or my Diplomat Arrow from Craig last year. I traded some vintage pins to him for my first Diplomat. So I remember Craig, but I believe he is on the list. the president of the Arkansas Pen Show kind of put a call out for people who wanted to participate. So the names I can remember without looking it up is, let's see, Sean Newton, Joe from Gentleman Stationer, Lisa Vaness, Danny Fudge, Craig, someone from the Veterans Pen Turning Program, and I don't remember the others. So, but I will be there. And during that interview time, if you're at the Arkansas Pen Show, the event room will be open. So it'll be in person / live stream. So if you need a reprieve and get off your feet a little bit and play with your new toys in the afternoon, definitely come in and you can watch and see how that goes. But I do think I'm going to I know it's going to be a little bit harder to read the names, but I'll say this is the Diamine Honey Burst, and I'll just kind of hold them up like this as I go. So that way the camera is not as grainy. And I think with rearranging my desk, I've got a little bit more room to be able to just kind of leave some of these here as we go through. Okay, so APC, that makes more sense. And I didn't realize he ran the Austin Pen Club. I saw APC on the notes and I didn't know what that meant. I hadn't had a chance to ask Chad about the abbreviation, so that's good to know. Okay, so up next is an older Diamine, as you can tell from the older bottle. This is the Sherwood Green. And one other thing with re-swatching all these, some of these older inks, like this one, when I just opened it, it had air suck in. So some of these inks might not be good anymore. So this will be a good way to and I could, but I'll just take a picture at the end, or put a link to my FPC, because eventually that'll all be updated. I didn't choose which inks I was doing until about 10 minutes before this started. When I was like, oh wait, my stream starts in very soon. I need to get the inks out. I knew I was going to be swatching, but you know, I really enjoy the Thursday night stream. It works out well because Beth goes to the office, so I'm here. But also, it was a busy work day, so you know how that is. You get caught up in, oh crap, my work day is over and I have a thing in an hour that I need to do. So that's Sherwood Green, and as you can see, it was a very liquidy. There is a way to do captioning and whatnot, but I haven't tried it. And I think it might do it after the fact. There's a default option that you can do on YouTube where it will transcribe things, I think. I have that enabled, but to be honest, I rarely ever go back and rewatch my own streams, so I don't know if it actually works. Now here's another one, and you can tell from the crust on the bottle because it's living up to its name. The nice ancient bottle of Diamine, Ancient Copper. I know some people who swear by this ink, and it's a fine ink, but I don't find myself reaching for it often. It's one of those inks, though, I feel like you almost have to own, but I like a little bit brighter colors, like that Honey Burst brighter, but the way this kind of swatches down, I think I'd almost rather use Oxblood, which has a little bit more of a red tone to it. So I don't know, what are your thoughts on Ancient Copper? Is it one of those inks you feel like you should own just because? Hey David Buckheister, I already said hello to David Persons. Let's see. Yeah, so that's the Ancient Copper. So I can already say from previous swatching streams, it was nice to set these bottles to the side with enough room to be able to quickly go through these. This is already a great improvement. So this one is Diamine Blue Black. It is no fire on fire. That is correct, Anne. But do you realize what you're saying when you say fire on fire? And if you don't understand that reference, go watch the episode with Brad that came out this morning. There's a link pinned at the top of the chat. That was a fun little soundbite to make of the origins of the name for fire and fire and how it came to be. Thank you, Aaron. Yeah, it was last Thursday was the birthday, and it was a good time. And I've been seeing the pictures of the pins that Sean Newton's been saying he's going to be bringing to the Arkansas Pin Show. And there's one of those ebonite prospectors that I'm going to be torn. Do I go first thing and pick it up because it just looks amazing, or and not risk someone else buying it, or do I wait and hope that it's still there after I've made a full loop? We will see how that goes, but the blue ebonite, or that bright green, if you saw the pictures, if you follow his Instagram or his Facebook page, the bright lime green that would be perfect with like Shiku Ren, with the kind of the hidden section, that thing, man. We will see. I am also going a day early, so I might get a chance to look at it in person and see if, I just need to get it before the show, and then it doesn't count as buying it at the show, right? So then I could still be good to buy another one? Does my math work out? This one is Diamine Writer's Blood, and this is one I actually got for Beth as she started writing her books, and I think she's had this in a pin ever since. I've been a long time Oxblood user, and this one has just enough variety in the color. And I think, and this is where I'm sure someone in the chat will know, didn't Writer's Blood, wasn't it the fountain pen subreddit creation? That's what kind of made it come to fruition. I know that community has collectively been the inspiration and reason for quite a few inks being made over time. Yeah, Lydia, Sean's pins, now that he's doing like some of the mixed colors, I already have 2 prospectors. I had a third one that I sold that I got for the nib and then swapped around, and I would not hesitate to buy a third prospector, but I do want to see, like, Dave Dollar's going to be there, which I've never seen his pins in person. There's a couple other newer people that I at least want to see variety, hopefully, but that I know with Sean's pins, there's a good chance that if you come back around later on the day on that table, it might not be there. So that's the pin show risk. I am also going to Atlanta the following weekend, so we'll see how it ends up. Okay, yeah, David, I thought that was correct, that it was a Reddit themed ink. Okay, up next is the Diamine Tobacco Sunburst. I think this was one that Beth picked up from Butler one time when we were there. She was looking for a brownish ink. Yeah, but in talking about, so at the Pin Show on Friday, I'm doing the 2.5 hour live stream that will be on YouTube. It will be on the Riverside app, and there will be links to all this, and it should be streaming to Twitch as well. So it'll be a triple stream, same feed, so that way it'll be easily accessible for people to watch. I've never really streamed on Twitch aside from the 2-minute error last Thursday when I thought I had all this stuff set up and then it wasn't. But I think I'm going to start doing the Thursday night streams in both places because this Riverside will combine the chats into one. So I think that would be handy to just add and try something out different. Okay, on to one of my all-time favorite inks. The ink that has been in my Sailor 1911 Black Luster for over a decade. Not the same fill, but the same color. The Oxblood, because I bought that at the era when True Blood was new on TV, and it seemed like the all blacked out pen needed the blood red ink because it matched True Blood, you know, like you do. Mix your hobbies with current media. Yeah, Aaron, that blue ebonite one and then that green one. That lime green Prospector, when I saw that, I was like, oh, I saw the blue one and then I swiped and saw the green one. I was like, oh man, talk about hard to choose, but we'll see. The one upside is the Prospector it is a little bit higher price of a pen, so that can make it stay at the table a little longer, but you never know. Okay, so there's Oxblood. And I think here in a minute, I'm going to run out of actual practical room, so I'll probably take some of those first ones and kind of set them to the side. And we'll look at all the inks that I've re-swatched tonight at the end. But okay, so yeah, David, thanks for popping in. Even if you can't stay long, it's always great to see people in the chat. So this is the ink that I put in the Asvine J16 video, and this was the gift from Lisa Vaness that she brought back from Japan, and this is the Sailor Old Burgundy, which is from their ink lab, or the writing lab, and I really enjoyed using this in that Asvine. They're around 4, Aaron, and up, depending on material. My matte black ebonite that I got last year, I think, was around 4. And then the other one I have is I got for pretty much a steal at an event that I went to down in Huntsville that the Huntsville Pen Club put on. And it's one of the D squared arch materials with the stripes. But yeah, it depends. Most of the Prospectors are around 375 to 4 and up, depending on materials and nibs and all that. And then I do plan on getting a couple more Kodachis ground by Matthew, since I will not be able to go to Dromgold since he is there. But that's always, I've really enjoyed using the Kodachis more now that I had a couple. And it's just a good mix for me. Architect, I hardly ever use my Architect grind from Matthew, but I use the Kodachi with much more frequency because they can still work with my print style writing. But I really like this Old Burgundy, and I think once it dries, it'll lighten up. It's writing with it in the extra fine nib. It's a whole different look, but yeah, Operex is crazy. I know that Nick Pasquale's done some, and I look forward to honestly seeing Nick's. I haven't seen him in person in a while, even though he lives in town, but he's been making a whole bunch of new materials to take to Arkansas, and that'll be his first time vending there. So it could be I buy something from the hometown person. You never know. Okay, so we're making our way into Mont Blanc territory. So let me go in and shuffle some of these around, the first ones, and I'm going to turn the light down a little bit and just kind of, well, let me see. I guess if I hold it up at an angle, it goes a little better. So this is the Earl Grey, which pretty much looks black on the swatch. And I haven't used that in a while, but that's one thing for me when I swatch with a lot of ink like this. I write with such tiny nibs that I don't always see the colors the same way, but it gives a good general idea. I really like that Honey Burst. It reminds me of the KWZ Honey, as you would imagine from the name, but I have KWZ Honey in my Asvine C80 currently, I think. We've got the Ancient Copper, which, you know, it does not look bad when it dries. I just hate that it gets crunchy in the pens. Because I'll be honest, I'm not the best at cleaning my pens. So part of that is me. Got the writer's blood where it's got that good kind of sheen over the top, but not crazy sheen, just enough. Got the Diamine Tobacco Sunburst. I was saying about Opera X though is Nick did a couple of, I think, Parker 51 re-sleeves in Opera X, and those things looked crazy cool. Okay, I'll shift these up, give them a little bit more time to dry. But that's, I think, most of my shopping, aside from, I've told myself to get a pin. Because back-to-back pin show weekends, I want to get a pin, but I want to look for material and paper and other stuff. But onto the Mont Blanc, this is the William Shakespeare Velvet Red. And this is an ink that I kind of rediscovered that I forgot I owned. That when I got my Gravitas Century, I was like, I need an ink for this. So I grabbed this off the shelf and I was like, man, why have I not been using this with more frequency? It's a great burgundy. I just, it's an ink that I got years ago that out of sight, out of mind is a big problem. But once this dries, you'll see it's a great burgundy tone. So it's not quite as dark as Oxblood. And it'll be interesting to compare this to the Oxblood and then the Sailor Old Burgundy. But looking at the Old Burgundy card now compared to the writing that I've been getting out of the pen, it's like a whole completely different world. So and I don't think I'll find it at Arkansas. There's a better chance of possibly finding at Atlanta, but I would like to get another bottle of the Mont Blanc Enzo Ferrari. That has become one of my favorite inks, and I'm already over halfway through the bottle, and I haven't owned it all that long. So I'm on the lookout. So if you come across a bottle of Mont Blanc Enzo Ferrari, let me know. Okay, so this is the Mont Blanc Antoine de Saint-Exupéry Encre du Dessert. And if you don't own Mont Blanc inks, one thing I hate about them is they don't have the actual ink name. They've got, like, this one says Encre Maroon, but it doesn't actually say the color. And then some of those labels are not very descriptive, especially on these special editions. Now their main inks, which I have a few that I'll get to here in a minute, they say the name on the bottle. All the special editions, if you don't know exactly, it can be really easy to mix them up, especially on colors that are very similar. Because at first, when I was putting these out, I thought that this was the Enzo, but then I was like, wait, no, it's too far back on the shelf because I just refilled one of my prospectors with the Enzo. Although now I'm sitting here looking at it and I'm second guessing because they're in very identical bottles. So it might be I have to re-swatch these once I see the other one. So I don't want to necessarily put labels on here, but that's one thing, if I could improve, that they would have better labeling on the bottles, especially for their special editions. Because would it be that hard to make another little label like that sticks on the bottom that says the actual name of the ink? I think not, but we'll see. And I'm not second guessing now that I saw the bottle sitting there when you've moved them around, but this is already much more used of a bottle. So this is the Mont Blanc Enzo Ferrari. So on Saturday of the Arkansas Pen Show, I will be, along with Olive Octopus, who's in the chat, she's going to be doing a round table on ink swatching of some variety. And Lisa, are you doing an actual standalone panel too, or just the round table? I know we kind of talked about it, but now I'm thinking you're also doing like your own standalone ink swatching panel and the round table. Um, but I look forward to attending that if there's a separate panel. And then I am doing a round table on my next level analog. And let's see if one of the magic little buttons that I set up actually works. And see if Stream Elements kicks in and actually behaves and puts the page up, which it did. So I've added a typewriter page on my website, and I really like how I did it. I typed it out and then just took a picture, because why would you not do that for something about typewriters? Just of how I'm using them, like for things like this, the swatch cards for letters. A lot of you have received typed letters by now, and just showing examples. And I'm going to have in my paper testing book, I've been doing paper testing with the typewriters of how well you can type on your stationery paper. Or, you know, some of you've probably received like what I'm calling a 50-50 letter, where I type the first half and then write the second half. Okay, seminar on Saturday afternoon in addition to the roundtable. Okay, yeah, so if you're going to be at Arkansas, which I know a few of you are, definitely things to attend. So this is the Mont Blanc BMW Blue, and this is one of their special editions, but you can see it is a tiny bottle. I got this at the Atlanta Pen Show in 2016, and it's probably one of my favorite blues, but I don't use it all that often anymore because I can't. Looking at the used prices for another bottle of this, I need to spend some time with the Olive Octopus Swatch repository and find a good duplicate for this, because it's a really great blue color. But you know, Mont Blanc, I own one pen. I wouldn't necessarily aspire to buy a lot more of them, but I really like their inks. And their inks, they're not as proud of in general as they are their precious resin. But look at that blue. I mean, even through the camera and the distance and whatnot, it just pops. And this was in conjunction with whatever color blue came out for a BMW in 2016, but I don't know, something about that ink. But you can see from size comparison, bottle-wise, it's the baby bottle. So of all the ones I have, it is the smallest. But I also plan at the typewriter roundtable I'm going to take, I think, 5 machines, possibly 6 if the latest one that I won as an auction arrives before then, and just set them up and let people use them, play with them. I think there's, in talking and starting to read that typewriter revolution book, there's a lot of people who, especially my age bracket, where we were kind of mostly analog childhood, fully digital adulthood, so we kind of bridged the gap, and then a whole younger generation who've never used typewriters that are being drawn to it because it is analog, you know, having something that's not digital. So it's an interesting time, and you know, it's a great addition to the hobby as a whole. And I'm really, you know, trying not to go too much into a rabbit hole, but I'm really enjoying all of the learning and just using them. I'm typing things now that I never would have guessed I would type, like work reference. But that work reference has been invaluable when you're having to type in serial numbers on a regular basis from like appliances and stuff, you know, IT life, and being able to flip to a page and easily read it, that's a big win. And I was telling Olive Octopus this, the typewriter I just won, it's got a very special feature on it. It's got a 1 key. It'll be my first typewriter out of the 12 that actually has a 1 key, and you don't use the lowercase L as a 1. So this is a longtime favorite here, the Mont Blanc Toffee Brown. This is the ink that has lived in my custom 823 since I got it. Sorry about that. Throat's getting a little dry because it is allergy season. I don't know if you suffer from that, but here in Middle Tennessee, the Bradford pears have started to bloom with their terrible smell and all of the other stuff. And stuff is growing quickly because we've had some good rain. So it's almost at the point where it's time to start cutting grass, and it's barely the middle of March, where there's been years in the past where we've had snow like on March 15th. So, you know, go take it. And then like this morning, it was like in the 40s, where yesterday it was like 72. But this is a great brown ink. It matches the amber 823 like perfectly. First bottle of ink you bought was Mont Blanc Irish Green. Interesting. So in honor of Anne's first bottle of ink, this one happened to be next, the Mont Blanc Irish Green. It's kind of great how that works. And this is an ink I've been meaning to revisit, and especially with St. Patrick's Day coming up, I probably need to put this in a pen. It's, you know, to be seasonally appropriate, if nothing else. It would be fun to have this in a pen. And I'm almost written down, where's it at? So my Skogsy Elved, you can see it's on the last little bit. So maybe I'll put the Irish Green in this once it is fully written down, which that has Kujaku in it now, I think. Which was a newer, to me, Aroshizuku, which great color, and it matches that pen really well, but it might need Irish Green because it would show through great on that clear acrylic. I think Doodlebud in one of his videos, this is like his quintessential green ink, or at least it was. I think he's really become a fan of the Hongdian inks now too. Okay, so I currently only have 4 more inks out. Oh, well, that's perfect timing, David. I actually think I saw that on informed delivery, and I don't know about y'all, but my mail has been really slow lately. Like, I got informed delivery for a letter I recently got from Lydia, and one that I got from, who else? I don't remember who else. And then I had a little from the Smith Corona typewriter. It was missing the little name badge. And I found someone who had one and mailed it to me just in a regular envelope. And I saw informed delivery and I was like, oh yeah, great. These are going to come. And then, okay, I see what y'all were saying, Anne, or what you were saying about the camera. I think the autofocus is going crazy. Like, it seems like it's jumping in and out or something on the overhead camera. Let me double check that real quick. Now that I happen to glance up and I'm seeing it happen. Tracking, zone tracking. Don't want any tracking. Anti-flicker, auto exposure. White balance. Where's the... Let me just turn that off. See if that fixes it. Okay, that did fix it, and I think that's going to be enough focus. Okay. Sorry about that tangent. Yeah, but my mail had been so good for so long, like informed delivery, and then you get it that day. So when you see something, because it was my car tags. That was the other thing. I was waiting on my new tags. I was like, oh, I'm going to be here Thursday. And then they got here yesterday. So it was quite a delay, which I was not expecting. Because letters and whatnot, yeah, they'll make it eventually. But the car tags, I did not want to lose such a expensive little sticker. So this is the Mont Blanc Royal Blue, and I gotta say, if you're looking for good, just quality standard inks, the Mont Blanc, like the Irish Green or the Royal Blue or the Toffee Brown, they're great performers and great colors. I'm sure there's a lot of people who are turned away by the name, but even the standard Mont Blanc inks are not overly expensive, and I do like that the bottle shape is a nice bottle shape, but I mean, look at that blue. Even on the camera, it's coming through really great. Just a good royal blue. Okay, so we've got the Mont Blanc. This is another special edition, the red Chine. And this is one of those reds that's like almost too red, because what are you really going to use it for? I need to do another stream where I try and do more art. But this is like red. And I don't know about y'all, but bright red like this, it just makes you think of like correcting a paper or something like that. So I really like the burgundies, the oxbloods, that, but the bright reds like this are not an ink that I'm probably going to put in a pen for regular use. The caveat would be the Amarillo Stationery Earn Kicks, because it's a little bit more subdued, but I really like that ink. But that's the red Chine. And then, let's see. You know, and I might step away for a second and grab a few more inks, because I've been making a lot better timing on this than I thought I would. Hey, George, good to see you. I hope Disney is treating you well. I think if my mail arrived on time today, I have a postcard inbound from you. So let's see. This is something, last time I refilled I think my Toffee Brown has gone south for the winter. Last time I refilled my 823 and went to use it, I was like, man, this ink looks really black. I think my over 13-year-old bottle of Toffee Brown is ready for a replacement, because it should be much more brown than that. So yeah, I think that's... So far, the rest of these are pretty true to what I'd expect. But that one, I think this is the confirmation of it is time to get a new bottle of Toffee Brown. So I'll be on the lookout for that It was supposed to be China, and it was a special edition where, if I remember the box, which I'd have to dig it out, it had one of the Chinese dragons on it. So that's why I think it's Chine. Like, I assume, but it had like one of the Chinese dragons on the box. But yeah, let's see. Okay, so let me slide some of these around. The two inks that I have left are the more boring inks, kind of, in a way. Lamy Black and Lamy Turquoise. I had already retyped all of my Lamy Crystal inks. Okay, so that Sailor Burgundy, I guess it has a little bit of a sheen that comes out. I wasn't seeing that in the writing. You are just on time, Dragon Drawer. I'm going to grab some more inks because I've already gone through this 18 or so in re-swatching, and I'll do a recap at the end of all of them. But I thought this would take a lot longer, but having them all set on the cards in advance really makes the made me able to go through these pretty quickly. The other thing I could do is possibly switch and just grab one of the typewriters and make some more of the cards that I need to for inks I found that I do not have cards for. But we'll see. Okay, so we'll do the black and then the turquoise. And I don't remember the last time I opened this Lamy black ink, because if I'm looking for black, I'm probably going to be using my Chao-Kuro or my Edelstein Onyx or my Lamy Crystal black ink. Although I do need to clean a couple of these sticks real quick, because I did deplete my supply. So let's do that. DR Netris, I have not tried that one. I will have to look into that one. A4 KB. I will look into that, because I really enjoy finding new papers, and that's one nice thing about our local pen club. There's a lot of us paper nerds. So buying a pack of paper and then handing it out for other people to play around with. Okay, so it's the Kikuyo. I did not, but speaking of paper, so I don't know if you saw the link that I put on YouTube, but when I was at Gentleman Stationery last week, he had some Canopus in A4, and he also has the Guillotine paper cutter. So, went to Pen Club, I bought some paper, and then I was in a little bit of a rush and didn't cut it down before we went, because store was busy. We'd already made Lisa of Octopus, the transaction from Doom of all these random little one-of things that have to look up the products. So I was like, I'll just go back and get it cut down after Pen Club. And then we had a storm come through, so of course it's pouring down rain. But I bought another pack, but I now have 200 sheets of Canopus A5, and I've thrown that in the typewriter, and that's what, if you're getting a letter coming soon in the future, it's probably going to be on Canopus, just to get better familiar with it, not in a notebook, because I really liked it in the notebook, but being able to write with pens and whatnot. DR Naturals, if you have a link for that, throw it up in the chat, and I'll be sure and copy it out and take a look, so that way I'm looking at the exact paper. I'm all about buying some new paper to try, especially now that I know I can go down and use the Guillotine. But to continue on that path, so Lisa is watching the front of the store, and Gentleman Stationery, if you're not familiar, so he's got a little section in the front, and then the original store is in the same office complex, but it's kind of like around the corner. And that's like the shipping / warehouse area. So Joe went back and we cut my paper down. And then he's like, hey, you want to make a video? And if you saw the clip, he had an old used up Hobonichi cousin that we kind of put the Guillotine to the test. Can it cut an entire Hobonichi cousin down to an A5 slim size? The answer is yes, and it did it without any kind of hesitation at all. And it's nice to know that there's easy access to a Guillotine, although that being said, I still want to get one just because I feel like I should own a paper Guillotine. Don't know if I'm going to do that, but it's kind of hard to not want to own a paper Guillotine after seeing how much fun it was. So we'll see. Oh, that works. I should be able to pull it from there. Okay. So let's get these last two swatched, and then I think it'll cut a ream at a time, so 500. Maybe 400, but we did my entire second pack of Canopus and like bloop, it was done. And it cut it perfectly. Like it's got down to the millimeter. So we're sitting here, it's like, okay, it's 14.8 millimeters to cut it down. And go watch the video. There's a link on Joe's Instagram, the Gentleman Stationer, or I put a link to the video where he put it on YouTube, where we took a regular little like Lockbee A5 insert, cut that down, and used the corner rounder. And you'd be hard pressed to not know that that didn't come like that from the factory. But then watching it cut down that Hobonichi cousin was kind of crazy. I mean, it's just, the blade on that is ridiculous. I can probably find it here in a second. Let's see if I can copy this link. Share, copy. One other thing that's been nice about rearranging my desk somewhat is, oh man, that was almost a big mess. There you go. So everybody watch the guillotine in action, because that's just fun. And the other ironic thing is I had my new little Osmo camera with my microphones in the Jeep, but it was pouring down rain, so we just see that's just filming with my phone and holding it, and yeah. He was able to fix the audio a little bit afterwards, just running it through, because it was like, it's a warehouse area, so shipping, so it had a little bit of an echo, but yeah, that paper cutter, I'm probably not the only person, because on the Gentleman Stationer Discord, there's been quite a few people asking about, hey, what's that paper cutter? Where can I get it? What's the make and model? Because it's intriguing. Aaron, I will have to look, or maybe, I don't know if Ann or Lisa, since I know y'all are in Joe's Discord, I think he put the brand. Maybe if one of y'all are at a computer where you could snag it out of there and throw it in the chat, that'd be good. But it's like an industrial single edge guillotine cutter. I think it was like I don't want to say the wrong name. Yeah, Ann, I appreciate it. So Ann will get the link and throw it in the chat there. So this is the Lamy Turquoise, which this is another great color. Very similar if you're an Oroshizuku user to Konpeki-esque. They're very similar blues. At Butler Stationery, which is the other stationery store in town, this is the ink that he leaves in all of his tester pens, because it's just a good color, easy to clean, doesn't overly stain hands. Yeah, HFS. I knew it was a 3-letter something, but HFS paper cutter. And I don't think he had an actual link, but if you can probably look on Amazon, look for HFS guillotine paper cutter or something along those lines. Okay, so let me zoom out here. Let's bring some more of these back in and look at the collected, what we have swatched so far, and then figure out if I'm going to go grab a couple more inks or... And I do love swatching, because once inks have had a chance to dry, they really bring out the better personality. Let's see. Yeah, like this. Now that this is dried, but now with autofocus not being on, that Mont Blanc BMW, or So fun fact on the channel member Discord, apparently it does not equate to time zones, as it just told me my event's about to start for the live stream, because good old time change messing up everybody's automation for everything. I think DR Naturalist, it's like a $200 like guillotine. So that's where I'm like a little bit torn. I was like, it would be an awesome thing to have and use. But I also can drive to a store I go to on an almost weekly basis and use the one there. But there's something about... Hey, Rahul. Like, yeah, I was just talking about... It actually started an hour ago. I guess the Discord does not... I'll have to go look and see if there's an option in there for... daylight savings or whatever. I don't know. Are we in standard now or daylight savings? Whichever one we're in. But yeah, bookbinding. So Anne, I don't know. I know you know her online, but I don't know if Marissa and Chris are going to end up making it to Arkansas for a day this year, like they did it last year as a day trip. But when I vended Arkansas the one time in the past, Marissa was doing hand-bound books and notebooks. So she's a great resource for hand-bound things. And that she helped me when we were doing the HP 32 inserts. I was doing stapled, but she was doing hand-stitched signatures and stuff like that. So Rahul, what I'm doing is tonight was going through re-swatching on the now typed swatch cards. So this is an assortment of Diamine, Mont Blanc, a couple of Lamy inks. Just the cards I happened to grab. I didn't type any of these tonight. Let me zoom in and see if it... So these are just all the cards I typed a couple weeks ago of the new names, just to have some standardization. And it's brought to light that I need to really get my inventory back in line. I need to buy a new bottle of Mont Blanc Toffee Brown because it is now Mont Blanc Black Sludge. So it is no longer toffee brown colored, which can happen. I mean, the fact that some of these inks that are over 10, 12 years old still are true to color, that's saying something. And then we've been talking about pin shows, and for those who weren't here earlier, if anybody's going to DC, there's a good chance I will end up going to DC this year. I was able to procure a room, even though it was sold out. I happened to hit refresh at the right time and I booked it. I always can cancel closer too if logistics don't work out, but I think that would be fun to go help out in the Vanessa lounge in the basement and then get to see some of the show and just have another pin experience. And there's a lot of people who go to shows like that are never going to come to the Atlanta or the Arkansas. So getting to put faces with names of people who you interact with all the time on streams or forums and whatnot, that would be really fun. And having the opportunity to help out in the lounge gives me something to do. I do not do very well at sitting still. And if I'm helping in the lounge, I'm not going to go crazy and buy all the things. So it's a win-win scenario, really. It's like when I used to go to the last few years, I went to Dragon Con. I was a staff photographer, so that kept me from going crazy because I had something to do during the day and then I could hang out with people at night. But yeah, so these are things I don't think I'm going to grab anymore. I think... So Rahul, that was probably Mike from Ink Dependence. He does a lot of the big shows where he walks through and talks and interviews a lot of the guests. And I did that kind of last year at Arkansas, but I think the version that's going to happen this year is I'm going to walk around with Chad, who's the president of the pen club, and we're going to do just kind of a overview probably earlier on Friday, and then I'll have the live stream with the different people on Friday afternoon. So how was Baltimore? Did you pick up anything, Aaron? Baltimore is another one that seems interesting. I'm also kind of want to try and, if I can swing it later in the year, I think St. Louis would be a fun show to go to. And then I'm hoping there's a chance the place I'm contracted for, if I was able to end up going full time, they are based in Texas. So it'd be ideal to try and swing a work trip of some sort to Dallas around the time of the Dallas Pen Show, because that's a big facility. So let's see how that goes. But yeah. So yeah, that's the inks. And then, like I said, that's what I was going to do. I was going to show what I've done so far in terms of paper testing for the typewriter panel. So let me gather all these, and then these will all go in the Rolodex later. And honestly, the Diamine Sherwood Green, it might also need to be retired. I'm going to have to, let's see which camera here. This one does not look very green anymore. And I haven't used that enough, so that might be another. Actually, I'm going to set that one and then the toffee brown aside so that I remember to try and look up a comparison swatch, wherever that ended up, to see if I need to remove that bottle as well and give it a good funeral. So week 2 is, I believe, that Olive Octopus is going to San Fran. I remember seeing her talk about procuring flights. Yeah, if I get that paper, I'll put something up definitely. That's another thing at Atlanta, because if I get a pen in Arkansas, I want to try and get some other grinds, like maybe a Mark Bacchus grind of some sort, probably just his needlepoint or something like that, because that fits my writing. Maybe getting one done in person by Kirk. Because honestly, I know I love new pens just like everybody, but I also would like to get some other stuff that's a little bit more versatile. Like I don't have any grinds on a Bach nib, so I'd like to get some grinds done on a Bach number 6 so I can swap it around between my TriStar, or eventually when I get a Papa J, since he uses Bach, or my Pasquale pins. That would be nice to have that flexibility like I do with the Yovo 6s. So I'm looking for my... Okay, so... Oh, and I do have another Me Plus on its way to me at Pen Club last week. I pulled the trigger and I ordered a Narrow. Me Plus had a new thing that Nick, if you saw the first episode of season 2 of the podcast, he picked up the Plotter Narrow in Japan, and it had like a cool texture on it. And it was a store, like a Nagasawa store exclusive. Well, Me Plus is also now doing the textured. So I ordered a gray Narrow to play around with, because while I love the Bible size, it fits in most pockets, but I think the Narrow might be a little bit more practical, but we'll see. I will find a use. I really like the ring bound stuff. So let me actually zoom this back in. You can see how I'm organizing it all in here. So what I've been doing is, this is a paper testing of typewriter, where I can type on it with black and red. So this is Grafilo, yu-sari, Tomoe 52, typewriter paper by Yamamoto Paper out of the paper sampler. Well, technically, Dragon Door is not a plotter; it's a Me Plus, so it's kind of a gray area, thin paper Kikuyo. The plotter 5mm, because last week, if you saw the stream, I was asking for suggestions of other papers, so I did just the normal plotter paper here, and I just realized I did not type any red on it, so I'll have to go back and add that. And also that's why, because I typed these on the typewriter that actually does not have a red ribbon, so I'll have to throw these back in one that has red. The Tsubi that I use, Okay, Lydia, yes, that is correct. What is one more Me Plus? Technically, it'll only be my second one. So once again, I'm still within okay territory. I mean, that's how I'm going to justify it. The Karina Spark, which by the way, I know I did the video on this, but I've been using this a lot more. Just with all the pin show stuff, doing a lot more handwritten notes of planning things. And I've really come to appreciate this even more. Even though in general I prefer thicker paper, this has been great. This is what I've had loaded in my normal plotter that I carry, like my A5 that'll go down with me out of my office at night to like the coffee table type thing. And I have been using the heck out of the Karina Spark. So definitely a big fan of that. And I actually ordered some of the narrow. I got it from the Me Plus. So with the narrow, I ordered 4 packs of the narrow paper because a lot more places like Gentleman Stationer or Vanessa, they're carrying more ring bound products, which is awesome. But hardly anybody carries narrow because it's like the outcast of the ring bound, you know. But I can easily get Bible size, and that's the other justification potentially. If I were to get a guillotine paper cutter, I could just use all my personal / Bible size and guillotine them down to narrow size. So, you know, cool ways to look at that. So in the Me Plus store, it is what they call their lightweight paper. So go to their paper and look for the lightweight. That is Karina Spark. So then I also typed on the blue paper, which I got this blue paper when I first got the first plotter, thinking I would use it all the time, and I hardly ever use it. I'm sure there's a good use case for it. I have not found one for me, and it's not the best in the typewriter because of the way the grid is. It doesn't center stuff, so but have it in here as a sampler. And then I'm just going to have all of this on the table for people to kind of go through because, you know, my theory is you want to use the paper you already have. I don't want to buy typewriter specific paper. I don't want to buy writing specific. I want to buy good paper that is multifaceted. So the paper I was showing earlier that Well Appointed Desk had done, I'll type some sheets on this, have that in there. And I think I'm going to use probably, and I need to type my Canopus. So actually, I think I typed it. I just haven't punched it to put in here yet. Yeah, Rahul, we were talking about, there's a link further up in the chat, and I think I can probably paste it again, where I was at Gentleman Stationer, and we busted out the guillotine he has, and we cut down a Hobonichi cousin to an A5 Slim, and it did the entire book with just boop. And yeah. So I'm going to have that. And then these are... let me turn off so that'll show a little better. I've been doing kind of like I do with pins, typing out a sheet per typewriter. So that way I've got a good reference of the typeface and kind of the history of what it is. Like you can see this one here, and I'll zoom this in. This was the second typewriter I got. It's from 1935. It needs a good cleaning, and it types like garbage right now. It's the Royal Model O. Like it couldn't even type its name properly. So it's one of those that I didn't want to jump into cleaning it when I was so new, but it's time. So that's gonna now that I have some other machines that I'm using with more regularity, that one will be set aside for cleaning. And like this one is one of the ones I picked up in Little Rock. It types well enough, but it's got a really dirty platen. So you can see it's got the kind of ghosting in there. So a couple of the machines need a little bit of a cleanup, but that's to be expected when you've got things from the 30s or 40s or up to the 60s. So Aaron, for these I have, and let me grab it. This is the Perfect 6 by Bira Bira. And this does really great. Now, one thing with Plotter or Me Plus with the small rings, I like my laconic inserts, I actually repunch those, and it kind of makes a little bit of an oblong hole. And let me grab my normal plotter and show you what I'm talking about. And I'll actually just why not? I got this here. I'll punch one of these sheets. But I bought 3 different hole punches trying to find one that worked really well for the ring bound, because that is one thing. If you're getting ring bound, if you're going that direction, you need a hole punch, because that's the best way to be able to use an assortment of papers. So you can see that gets a nice clean punch. Now, let me zoom out a little. This is my normal plotter, and then my calendar pages. Just grab out May. So you can see, and I'll zoom this back in. You can see the holes are a little bit oblong, because on the small rings, in order for the pages to turn correctly, the pre-punched are meant for, I think, a 16 millimeter ring. With these 11 millimeter rings, you have to have enough room to kind of slide the paper to the side before you turn it, or it'll bind. So that's what I found as an option for there. Now there is this option. If you're doing like 1 or 2 sheets, this is meant to like live. You can see it's got holes here, so you'd put it in a different binder, and this is probably more for the larger ring bound as well. This makes me think of something like you would have bought from Franklin Covey. But this, to punch the holes, you put, and I'll just punch on this other. So you'd put the paper under these little tabs, line it up in those corners, and punch like that. And then you have the holes that will be on your desk or on your floor. But if you're, I keep this in the desk drawer, so if I need to do 1 sheet, it's a lot quicker to grab this than it is to go grab this out of the other drawer from the other side of my desk. But normally I'm not in such a rush that I'll just wait and punch multiple things at once with this one. But this is like $20 on Amazon, and I got this one from Vanessa that I think was also like $20. There was a Carl version that Plotter released that was like 45 or something like that for essentially this same thing. So, $20 doesn't seem so bad when you're comparing. And then on the back side, it's got the punch for a 6 or a 5 or 6 ring. So if you have the personal size, you can use this for the one-ofs. And I should be able to actually, because paper size math, put that there. Oh, and that's one thing with this single page. If you were to get one, you have to make sure you're not moving, because that paper will slide out of its guide. So you can do that. And then you have the smaller holes. Now this is where you can see with the different ring systems that are used in some of these, most of them use Krauss rings. The hole size affects how easy it's going to turn in the pages. So, different quirks. And the first hole punch I got, it was meant for like more American rings. And I know that sounds wrong, but I don't know the proper term, but the spacing, there was too much backspace. That's one thing you'll notice on this. There's not much backspace. The rings started in too far, so it did not fit within the rings of the 11 millimeter rings well at all. So that's more than you probably had cared to know. But the Perfect 6 by Bira Bira, and you can slide this. It's got a little guide here. So if you're doing personal or A5, you just slide this guide to get whatever paper, and then it's not the most important thing in the world, but it does hold the little punches, or the little punched holes inside of here, so it doesn't make a mess. So then you can just take this and empty it over your trash can. But it'll do A4S, A3E. So you can put this out to whatever dimension. Just remember to check that if you've been doing different paper sizes before punching your next pages, to be sure that it's at the proper alignment. And it's got a little, you can see the little holes. This has a little thing that'll catch in there, so it's not going to move out of that unless you pull it. So this one's been a great one. This was suggested to me by someone who had already been in the ring bound small ring world for a while. And then the other part with the rings is you also have to move these guides here to account for whatever size. So you've got the A5, you've got the personal, you've got the A6, and you've got the pocket mini. Sorry, realized that was, let's see, there we go. That'll show. So you'd slide those and it'll do the holes in the right spacing of whatever you need. So that's why I like this. It's easy to use, it's multifunctional, and it's worked really well. I mean, every page in here, you can see there's a lot of pages in here, were all punched. And by the way, if you're not familiar, I have this. Papa J Studios is currently doing a contest where you can download this drawing and paint it and have a chance to win a Papa J pin or a rickshaw that has the patch version of this on it. So this is Christina, aka Peanut, working on a floral finial, and this is the patch that's on the thing. I know if you watch Olive Octopus's stream, she's done a really cool painting of this with the fountain pen inks. And then, but look at the Papa J Instagram. There's the information on there, and you post a picture of your painted version with the hashtag, and then there's going to be a crowd vote, and I think the crowd vote wins the pin, and then Luke and Christina will vote, and whichever one they think is the favorite will get the rickshaw and I think some other stuff or something like that. But neat little thing. I had put this in here at Pin Club, and then I'm glad I found it because I couldn't remember where I'd put it. So I'm going to try and work on that. And this one is printed on, what'd you say, Olive Octopus? I think this is either Grafilo or Canopus, because that's what happened to be on the printer. It's nice thick paper. But that's a neat little way of a contest. So definitely give that a shot if that's something you're interested in, because who wouldn't want to win a free custom pin? But yeah, that's everything you ever wanted to know or never wanted to know about hole punches. But I use this all the time, and I leave it in my drawer so it's quick enough to grab. I mean, you saw I was able to just pull it out of the drawer. And I have the other one that I got, and I'll show that just because it was past the return window. So don't get the Office Mate. And let me punch a sheet and I'll show the difference because we're talking about all this. And I'll just punch this other part of the page here. So you can see the backspace is different on this, and it does not fit well in the rings. It's very minimal, but it's just enough. I mean, we're talking a couple of millimeters, but with an 11 millimeter ring, when that's only meant for like an 80 page capacity, those couple of millimeters are going to be the difference between being able to turn the pages or not. So just something to be aware of in hole punches. So this was the first one I got, but like I said, I had it so long that I thought it was working great until it wasn't. And that's why I did, more asking and research and got the other. So I still have this. I didn't want to throw it away, and I didn't really want to give it to someone else who needed it for this kind of use case. So it now lives in the drawer, a memory of I should have done more research in advance, but I'm sure it'll find a use at some point. I mean, this does have all the different sizes, and if I were to get, now that Me Plus has the option for getting larger rings, if I were to get more ring bound, I could get larger rings, and then this would be great. Or maybe if I find someone who bought a Me Plus and they don't have a punch, I could gift them one of these if they got the larger rings, or give them this one so that they could use it. I do like that this has, and the other one has it too, a little lock, so you can lock the handle down, which I should have done, and that would have been easier to grab that out of the drawer. So you can just kind of slide that over and it'll make it a little bit more compact. But yeah, that's hole punches. So I didn't plan on talking about that, but they are very useful tools for when getting into the ring bound world. And it seems like the ring bound is getting its comeback, because I was Filofax user for right out of college for many years, and then nothing, and then tried different things, and now I'm back to ring bound. So I think that's what I'm going to stick with going forward. Yes, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Now I did see though, and I don't know if you've seen it, Travelers is releasing a special edition that looks kind of like almost a Plotter Mini 5 size. It's I think it's a 100th anniversary edition or something like that. I'm sure those are going to sell like hotcakes. So if you like the band method instead of the rings, keep an eye out for those when people get them in stock. I'm sure those will sell out just about immediately, because even stores, they don't know what amount that they're going to get, so they can't really do pre-orders or anything like that. So definitely check those out, if that's your cup of tea, so to speak. But yeah, other than that, I hope that new typewriter arrives. And I do have a couple of typewriter centric videos, because one that kind of got me into buying the first one is I'm going to type a letter to Tom Hanks, because he will type a letter back, and then that's going to be, yeah, I did see that, and that Lockbee is starting to do ring binders as well. I think rings, you know, they're so common in Japan. Plotter in Japan is kind of like the afterthought. Plotter was just the first one to really kind of bring it back to the States from the Japanese stationery world, versus like Franklin Covey or things like that in the past. So that was interesting to hear Lisa Vaness talking about that, you know, in Japan, Plotters, you know, there's so many other like Ray May and other brands, and you know, that's where she's looking for. She's bringing in more papers, not the Plotter stuff, the other stuff that's everywhere in Japan, that like the Tasubi, which is really great paper, life paper in the different sizes. I've been using the hole punch and punching the little things of Canopus out of the Yamamoto Jotter tab or little tablets. That's been handy. So there's a lot more options now. So it's a great time to be getting into ring bound, if that's of interest to you. And then there's places like Me Plus doing, I mean, quality wise, right up there with Plotter. And they're adding, I understand where Plotter can't offer the customization because they're a larger scale, but Me Plus now, I've really been impressed, because you can choose your leather, you can choose your ring size, you can choose your ring color. They're now offering engraving down the metal back plate. So they're really stepping up their game, and it's a small shop where they're just making the orders as they come in. They're not really keeping stock. So of course that lets them keep prices down, but it's just an interesting premise. And this is coming from someone who has the tools here to do a lot of the leather work, but I'll be honest, I would spend more time to get it to the quality that I can order it from, and I would rather just purchase it and put that time to something else. I love doing leather work. It's a good hobby, but I'd much rather do something like sewing pin sleeves versus doing the full notebook, because if it wasn't perfect at the end, I wouldn't want to use it. So, you know, that's just how my brain works. So Rahul, I have a whole video on that. If you look back on the channel of when I'm talking about which pins I took on my trip to Jamaica, I showed which pins, and then I did an aftermath of what they do. Normally you'd want to keep them like in your seat back with nibs up. If you have vac fillers, those are going to be some of the best ones to in general take on a plane. Or if you don't want to risk potential mess, just take a pin and take some cartridges and just pop a cartridge in when you get to where you're going, use it, and then pop the cartridge out, throw it away, and fly home without it. I have not personally had any issues with any of my fountain pens leaking, even when I was traveling a week a month for work for a couple of years and taking 4 or 5 or more pins in my knock brass town. I never had any of them leak. So it's, in the past where pressurization was probably not the best on planes and you were dealing with lever fillers and different pins, it was probably more of a concern. But I think most modern pins in this day and age, there's always a chance, but it's less likely. So maybe take your Opus 88, where you can use the Japanese eyedropper and just shut off the main ink reservoir. Because that's what I did for if I'm doing a vac filler, I'll fill it up before I go, close the back, and write it down so there's not any ink in the front chamber, and then there's not any ink to explode out. Oh, I lost a TWSBI to an international flight. From cracking in or from exploding? The older TWSBIs had that known issue, so that could go either way depending on, how you lost it, because we were talking about that a little bit before. Leaking? Gotcha. Yeah, so there's always a chance, but, and it also probably depends on what kind of flight you're doing. So an international flight where it's under pressure for a lot longer. Yeah, and that was the OG era of TWSBI in their cracking era. I don't think that's anywhere near as common as it used to be. So Rahul, if you're taking that pin that you got from me, if you don't mind using cartridges, that's the safest bet. But yeah, and that's the other thing. Olive Octopus has a good point. If you don't plan on using it in flight, you're probably less at risk. It's more of the pressure change that's going to affect it. If you leave it sealed, there will be some pressure change inside of there, because most of the pins are pretty close to airtight. But using it in flight, use a roller ball or something, or find you a good mechanical pencil for when you're actually in the air, if you're doing some writing. But yeah, I would say, if you're not opposed to cartridges, there's times where cartridges are great. And I'll be honest, in your pin, I did not try, but a lot of pins, you can flip a second cartridge upside down, drop it down in the barrel, put a cartridge in the section and screw it up. So then you have a ready spare if you were to write through your cartridge, depending on how long you're going to be gone. But cartridges, there's a reason why they're so practical. You can just put a couple in your bag. They're going to be fine. And then just reload it. If you don't own cartridges, pick up like a Diamine variety pack, and then you have some color options. That's what I have. I don't have a ton of options. Well, caveat: if you're buying a specific pin that only takes that brand cartridges, so Pilot uses Pilot cartridge, Sailor uses Sailor. Any pin with a Yovo 6 is probably going to be using a standard international. That's where you can kind of get the variety packs, but keep that in mind. If you are looking for cartridges for specific brand, make sure that the cartridge you have is the right cartridge for the pin you're taking. That would be the one caveat there. The other option is you could always just take a small bottle of, like a 15 milliliter bottle of ink or something like that, and fill the pin when you get there, and then just empty out the converter. That's another option. There's plenty of ways to get around it. You can always just put the pin in a Ziploc bag and take your chances. It's up to you, but let us know if you have issues. That would be good. Let me know if you're taking the pin I made, because that would be, good to know if it didn't seal or something like that. That would be helpful for future. And speaking of pin making, I have not been in the shop because I've been prepping for pin shows and getting audio equipment and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. And Brad was talking about the Kakamori on one of his recent streams, and I think I'm in the camp personally. If I was going to get a rollerball, I'm going to get a rollerball. I don't think I'd want a rollerball that uses fountain pen ink, because the ball itself being metal, because I don't think they're using ceramic. Normally, you wouldn't want to mix metal. I don't know, weird chemistry can happen with that. So they might work, but I think I would just either go with a fountain pen that you can put cartridges in. If you need a roller ball, just get a dedicated roller ball would be the way. Yeah, I mean, and you'll have to be the explorer. You'll have to try it out and let us know how it works. That's one of those things that, there's all sorts of different boating and driving to Europe. Interesting. Well, Rahul, the obvious answer is if you're going to Europe, you just need to buy some ink when you're in Europe and fill it up there and then bring back the whole bottle with you. Problem solved. Um, you know, and honestly, if it's a converter full of ink, um, my parents, so my mom teaches crafts. They just came back from a month and a half Japanese cruise where it left from Tokyo to Tokyo by way of a bunch of places. So she teaches arts and crafts on cruises, and so I'm very familiar with those relocation cruises, like the transatlantic, where you go one way and stuff like that. But yeah, I would say just buy a bottle of ink when you're in Europe, make it easy, and then you have other options. Yeah, that'd be interesting, Olive Octopus. If you have one that's been sitting around for a while with ink in it, to see if it, how it's doing at this state of time. But so I think that's about all I have for tonight. Now, I do want to have one little bit of tech nerd. So if you're not familiar with Stream Decks, and I'll see if I can, let's see. I think one of these cameras. I'm going to see if this camera will reposition to show it. I got, oh, that's the wrong one. So you can see over here, I got the new Stream Deck. This was my birthday gift to myself. That has all the buttons and all the knobs. And you'll appreciate one of the buttons that came with it is, it came with a Rickroll button. And I don't know why I find that so funny, but it literally came with a pre-programmed button that has the intro to the Rickroll, and then it has a punch and a sad violin. So I just wanted to share that because why not? The tech nerd geek, that just makes me happy. The fact that the company literally went to the level of putting that on their new device. But this has made streaming much easier, where I can not have to go between multiple pages and was able to sort out camera angles and stuff. So definitely helpful if you're into streaming or you're going to get into the Rahul. I will have to see what the options are on there. I think Discord will do a thing, and I will fix the time zone as well for the streams. I don't know if it has I think Discord you can set like a 15-minute reminder or a 10-minute reminder or something like that. So I'll see what I can do on there. And like I said, I had no idea about the time change, it not calculating for that. So I will definitely at least get it working at the right time change. But if you're going to be at the Arkansas Pin Show next weekend and you see me, if you know me, obviously you're going to say hi. If you don't know me, if we've never met, come up and say hi. I want to meet new people, and I think that's going to be a great thing. The good thing about Arkansas is it's a good hangout event. I'm looking forward to most, not the pins per se, not the actual show, more of the hanging out in the lobby after the show is done, getting to just play with toys and talk and hang out with people. I think that's going to be the most fun part, honestly. Getting to interact with other enthusiasts. I think that's the best part. So definitely come up and say hi if you see me. If you don't know me, even if you do know me, come say hi, because that means we're there and we need to hang out and talk pins. So I'm gonna leave you all there. Hope you all have a good evening, and there won't be a stream next week officially on Thursday night because I will already be in Little Rock, but I might try and do a pop-up stream from the hotel, because I'm assume other people will be getting there early, so we might already be hanging out talking pins. So if you see a random stream pop up, throughout next weekend. It's going to be something from the pin show, so check it out. Other than that, I'll catch you next time.